Alright, Will, I think we are live now.
All right.
So what's new? Happy New Year, by the way. I know it's quite
You
late,
too.
but
Yeah, you too, sir.
yeah.
You
How's
and
the
you
weather
get to
there?
go
Where are you based off again?
Missouri.
Oh, Missouri. It's not
Yeah,
snowing there, right?
no,
Is
just
it?
well, it ain't even really cold, honestly. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, to me, it's like 50. That's not too bad. I don't mind
Nah,
the
it's not that bad.
50s.
Yeah.
But we'll go anywhere from one day being like 17 degrees to the next day being 70 to 80 degrees. We're such
Oh
a
wow.
bipolar. It's the fun part about being
Wow.
in the Midwest. You get both sides. You get like whatever affects the North and then whatever affects the South. You
Yeah,
know.
but like for like mid range, like 15 to like 70, that's like completely different season in a way.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
It
crazy.
can be rough. It can be rough if you're breeding shit that or stuff that needs cooler temperatures. You know, if you get like
Right,
cool
right,
temps and then boom, it hits you with like a 70 or 80 degree day, it can really ruin
right,
something.
right. So how did you get started?
How did I get started?
Yeah, with
It
all of
started
these yeah, chaos. I call it
just
chaos.
reptiles in general, or just kind of in the hobby. Because
Let's start with reptile in general first, and then we
reptile in
can
general,
touch base on the hobby. Uh-huh.
well, I'd say my generation grew up in prime time of the reptiles in general, because we had like Steve
Mm-hmm.
Irwin and stuff. And
Yeah.
who else? You had Steve Irwin, you had Jeff Corwin, you had was it Stephen Austin's or something? You had a bunch of these
Yeah.
reptile guys, and Steve was the guy who really, you see all those cool animals he was catching. I was like, man, that is so awesome. And I
Right.
always, at the time, it wasn't like I wanted to own them, but I wanted to do something with animals. So
Okay.
it probably wasn't till, oh, and something else I was going to say too is like a way that I knew that I was
Mm-hmm.
into keeping reptiles, and I never really thought
Mm-hmm.
about it till now, was,
Mm-hmm.
I watched Steve Irwin and all that. I was like, yeah, this is all of it was really cool. I like the herping and all that. But the one part I knew I liked the most was a
Mm-hmm.
zoo. Whenever he did stuff at a zoo, I was like, man, that would be so cool to do. Just own
Right.
stuff, work there, whatever. And then
Right.
as I got older, well, you can keep this stuff, because at the time when I was probably, it was 1997, 98 when I
Wow.
remember
Okay.
the first episode I
Mm-hmm.
watched, and I actually remember what episode it was. It's pretty, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, it impacted me in a really strong way, like how I could just
Right.
remember it when I don't even have all that
Mm-hmm.
good of a memory to begin with anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it was the Steve Irwin was probably the biggest thing, and
Right.
I kept into the reptiles, and then it was probably in that 07, 08, whenever
Okay.
Brian Barczyk started doing the videos. When he started doing the videos, like I knew
Snake
people
bite
kept
TV.
reptiles. Yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
snake bites when he started doing it. I knew people kept reptiles, but I didn't realize
Mm-hmm.
the scope of it all. And then,
Okay.
what was it? He started doing shows and stuff like that. And I was like,
Right.
boom, I was addicted to the hobby. Like, I generally love every aspect of the hobby. Like, I'm talking
Okay.
all the different species, the science part
Okay.
of it, the genetic side of it, the
Mm-hmm.
business side of it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was crazy cool that people were getting
Mm-hmm.
$50,000 to $100,000 for snakes. I thought that was the craziest thing. And then seeing Brian
Right.
Barczyk's big operation he had, it was just like, man, that would be cool to do something like that. And then
Right.
as I got, then after that, then it was like I started out with leopard geckos, bred leopard geckos and pyxis geckos for a while. Did that,
Okay.
but I've always loved snakes. I've always had a fascination with them, but I was never able to own them because my mom was terrified of them. She just didn't want nothing to do with them, anything like that.
Right.
So
Right.
eventually, my dad convinced her to finally let me get a snake. Because at that time,
Okay.
I was in and out of animals. Like I still kept geckos, bred them. I was still going through like the rebellion teenage stage where you're just doing all the bad stuff and acting up and
Yeah.
all that. Well, then
Same here.
I started doing snakes. Yeah, it's just, and then it was snakes, and then I got my first snake, and it was an albino ball python. So no matter how uncool albino ball pythons seem in the industry now, I love all albino stuff. Like for whatever reason,
Right.
I think for most people, it just pops to people because it was so different. So that was my first snake, and that was in '09. Then
Okay.
'09, it just started. It was like real tail end of '09, and then 2010 came in, and that's when I started really building a collection. And well, I guess I shouldn't say, but I was getting stuff. It wasn't much of kind of an unorganized collection, you know. Get this because I like this. Get this because I like this, and just stuff like that. So
Right.
yeah, it was probably. And then, believe it or what was it? 2011 is when I produced my first clutch of snakes in general, and it was carpet pythons. And I did that for a few years. Then, because at the time I had ball pythons, but all the ball pythons I got were babies, so it took a few years to raise them up. So then 2013 was my first season of breeding ball pythons. I've just been breeding ever since. But since I think 08, I think it was 08, I've been breeding something. Rather it was leopard geckos, pyxis geckos, carpet pythons, ball pythons, all kinds of stuff. So that's kind of a sum up of how I got into it and everything.
Right. Yeah. Like in general, I mean, you know, like how you started, it's actually kind of almost the same, like, you know, like how I started too, because, you know, like both of my parents actually hate, well, the whole family hates snakes in general. Yeah. And then, you know, just like us, you know, like we're like those rebellions, right? It's always like trying to do anything against like whatever they want us to do. So kind of the same scenario. And then so you started from geckos and then you jumped to like snake in general. So you're talking about your first ball python was albino, and then were you I mean did you already have like all the carpet pythons? So technically your so you did the your collection started with you know, like a carpet python first, then ball pythons, right? Or
well, it started with a ball python because my ball python got was a baby. It was an '09 baby when I got it. The carpet pythons, I got like a pair of
adult.
They were sub-adults. They weren't quite adults, but they were sub-adults. So it wasn't until that following year I had them. I finally bred those, and so yeah, it was like it just ever since then it's always been something. I mean, it may not either been a lot, but it was always breeding something consistently since then. So yeah.
Okay. So if you have to pick, right, which one you like better? That's probably a stupid question. Let me rephrase.
Oh, it's not stupid. Go ahead and say it, because I think I don't want to finish your sentence. I don't know what you were going to say, but I don't think it's a stupid question. I think they're both very valid questions.
If you have to, you know, like focus on one thing only, which one would you prefer to work with?
Well, out of what?
Carpet python or ball python?
Carpet python or ball python?
Right. Only one.
It's a difficult decision, really, because I have a lot of sentimental value to both. You know, ball python was just the first ever snake I got. You know, and I think it led me on the path because at least for ball pythons, otherwise I could have been a boa guy. Because at the time I didn't care what I got, I just wanted a snake, and I could have been a boa guy, a colubrid guy. Or just a carpet guy or something, but the ball python, I got it, and then I was infatuated with it, and then it wasn't like, and then I started, you know, watching Brian Barczyk and just seeing all the combinations, and I swear there were some other ball python people on YouTube too. I can't think of them, but Kevin was kind of him, or wasn't him, but it was Raffy was doing those videos, and I mean, you saw that, you're just like, wow, this is crazy. But then carpet pythons have a lot more of a sentimental value as far as like, I remember seeing a carpet python that Steve Irwin messed with, had it in his hand, and it turned around and bit him in the face, and he was playing with one on the road. It was something, you know, and then when I saw that, I goes like, wow, that is I don't know why I thought that was cool, but I was like, man, that is really, really neat, you know. And people kind of, you know, carpets have never been mainstream animals to begin with. You know, I mean, they've caught a little bit of popularity, but then they die down and catch it. They were a small wave, I would say. But I'd
Right.
say, you know, when it comes to combinations and just, I mean, ball pythons are just so hard to beat. But I mean, carpet
Yeah.
pythons, people think that they're, I
Mhm.
mean, you only got a handful of morphs. But the thing is with
Mhm.
carpet python people, it's a lot more
Mhm.
selective breeding. Like people are breeding, it's a lot more polygenic traits rather than, incomplete
Like a
dominant
morph.
or
Okay.
recessive traits. So, and I think that both have their own, plus and minuses. A ball python,
Okay.
you can get that trait, and it being an incomplete dominant or recessive trait, that phenotype expresses itself right away. A carpet
Right.
python, you might find something like it's semi-striped, or it's kind like like the best example of this is
Mhm.
probably in carpet pythons is probably the jungle carpet, where
Okay.
people just assume all jungle carpets are black and yellow, but in actuality, in the
Okay.
wild, they're more of brown, kind of gold, and
Mm.
dirty blacks. The ones you
Okay.
see at reptile shows, like when you go,
Mhm.
like when you were at Anaheim, when you went to uh, Todd's Table or Kerry King's, you saw that these
Oh, the star
bright
python.
yellow and black
Right.
snakes.
Yeah.
That is selective breeding. From
Okay. So you're
taking it
talking
to
about like
a
a line
white,
breeding
yeah, line breeding,
in a way.
selective
Okay.
breeding. You're just taking the best generations. And I've always
Okay.
told people too. I go, if ball python people
Mhm.
ever do this with morphs, they
Mhm.
will be unstoppable. And what I mean by that is, I
Mhm.
mean, and I had this rant a little while ago with some people, ball pythons, not too long
Mhm.
ago.
Mhm.
There's a general consensus in ball pythons where it seems to be you can only add morph A and morph B and then get the results of morph C.
Okay.
But in actuality,
Mhm.
because genes work and, they're not exact. I mean, you'll get all kinds of variations, like from high expression to low expression, and people
Right.
kind of people kind of just chuck it up to, oh, it's a crappy combination or whatever. Like I've
Mhm.
hatched, I've hatched quite a bit of stuff where you'd be like, is it have that in it? Then you hatch out
Uh-huh.
another one, you're just like, wow, like that is crazy. But okay, I'll get back on the topic as far as which one's my favorite. If I had to say,
Uh-huh.
this is going to be kind of hard to, it probably have to be ball pythons, only because,
Okay.
I mean, have done a lot for, I'm not to say carpets haven't, carpets have done a lot for me too, but
Okay.
I've been consistently in ball pythons a whole lot longer. Like I've had carpet pythons just as long, but it's always just
Mhm.
been, when I first got them, it's always been mutts and, just general, just mutt carpets, kind of, it'd be the equivalent of just buying normal ball pythons essentially,
Okay. Okay.
so that's kind of what I've been getting. And then here
Mhm.
since last 4 or 5 years, I've really been up in my carpet. I mean, if you got anyone who follows me or sees me on Instagram or Facebook
Mhm.
has seen it. I've been on a absolute, I mean, it's a problem how much stuff I've been getting as far as just all
It
kinds of
never
stuff.
stopped, man. Yeah.
But there's a reason, and there's reasonings behind what I've been doing. Like people kind of might look at what I'm doing and be like, dude, he's just all over the place. He has no focus. He's just
Right.
buying some of this, buying some of that, buying some of this.
Mhm.
There is,
Mhm.
they look at it and they may not assume that there's a focus to it, but there is a focus
Mhm.
to it. I'll get to it later if you want to talk about it later. But yeah,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, favorites of ball pythons, just for what they've done for me. Like
Mhm.
I've gotten to, I've sent animals all over the world, ball python wise.
Mhm.
Gotten to travel the state because of ball pythons, or all over the country, just
Okay.
getting to see every, like you or, you know, just a bunch of
Mhm.
people, and that's always been really, really cool. So
Right.
yeah, it's probably
Yeah.
say ball python.
Yeah. Based on like what I've like because I've talked to like like so many peoples, right? I mean, most of them become friends, and then some
Oh
of
yeah.
them I consider as like family too. So most of their story is pretty much the same. And then one thing that I've noticed so far is that the first clutch for any type of animal. So let's say if you
Yeah.
first have the ball python, or if you have first the carpet python, the first clutch that you actually produce, it seems like that's the main direction they actually take. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
let's say if their first animal was like corn snake, so they end up focusing on that particular project or particular animals. I can be wrong, but
Yeah.
it seems like that's how they decide like which project or like which particular species that they wanna pursue even more. I can be
I'd
wrong,
say,
so that's why
I'd
I
say
was
that's
kind of like wondering about this, huh?
that's pretty accurate. The only problem with me
Yeah.
is like with me, my first ever
Mm-hmm.
animal I ever bred was the leopard geckos and pyxis geckos. But I never
Okay.
got. I got into obviously got into them because I had a decent amount of them. But then they
Mm-hmm.
weren't. I liked them and appreciated
Uh-huh.
them, but I guess I
Right.
didn't truly like them like I did when I got a ball python.
I
And
got it.
honestly,
Okay.
when I got a ball python, it wasn't even that I wanted to breed it. I just wanted the
Mm-hmm.
snake. But then, you know how
Okay.
it goes. You don't think you want something, or you don't think or not want something, but you don't think you want to breed it, and then you get it, and you're
Uh-huh.
just. I mean, you sit there
Yeah.
for a while, and you're just like,
Yeah.
damn it, I want to, or darn, I want to try to breed it. I want to actually try to see if I can reproduce.
Right.
Especially like I said with Brian
Yeah.
Barczyk and all them, and you see them
Uh-huh.
breeding this stuff, and you're just like, man,
Uh-huh.
I want to try that. And then you end up trying it,
Right.
and yeah, it's like I remember the first time I hatched out pieds and bananas, dude. I'm telling you, it is the
Mm-hmm.
most unreal thing I think to this day still to see a
Yeah.
white and brown snake or orangish
Mm-hmm.
snake or a
Mm-hmm.
was a yellow and purple snake. I mean, that to me is like it doesn't even seem real to me. Like if
Right.
you just hash that out, even though there might only be like a couple $100 or $100 depending on which one,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Right.
still really cool to see that.
Right. Um, Before we move forward, I would like to go back and then kind of like visit this particular topic because there's kind of like different opinion when it comes to like line breeding. So let me ask you a really simple question. For example, let's say we just talk about focus on the albino bull pipe. Okay? Do
Yeah.
you believe or like what's your thought when it comes to like because there are like so many lines according to them. I
Yeah.
don't believe with that kind of stuff, to be honest with you. The reason I'm asking this because like earlier last year, I had one of my customer. Well, she was looking for this hat for high contrast albino because
Yeah.
according to the the seller there, she got this particular animals before. He said to her that you can only produce the so-called quote-unquote high contrast albino if you breed it, like two heads, like that two heads, high contrast albino together. Otherwise, you will never produce albino. So I was like, that's not true at all because you can just get any, head albino. You can produce, particular albino. So my point is this: what's your thought about this different line and then high contrast or like Mr. So and so Smarty Pants line of albino or like pites? What's your
Uh,
thought when it comes to this
I,
topic? I don't want to say
I,
argument, just say topic.
no,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I understand. Like I said,
Right.
I think whenever ball python people, line breeding is a thing. It truly is a thing. Trust me when
Right.
that's why I tell people like if you're into ball pythons, if you're into
Mm-hmm.
typically ball python people because they got more of if it's not a simply inherited trait, they don't seem to
Yeah.
quite understand like as far as
Yeah.
like polygenic traits, where polygenic traits are still under the non-Mendelian traits. But the thing
Right.
is, you can take those traits and you find a particular phenotype you really like the high contrast albino. What it is someone takes a darker colored normal and albino, and you're going to get a a brighter yellowish animal. But the thing
Mm-hmm.
is, if it may not breed true, and what I mean by that is, if it's just
Mm-hmm.
an animal that randomly pops out of a clutch and it's just really pretty, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
continuously work on
Mm-hmm.
continually working on the line till you
Right.
consistently produce better and better
Mm-hmm.
animals, then yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're right. Then if it's just a random occurring, just it pops up a better looking color, a high contrast
Mm-hmm.
albino, then in
Mhm.
my opinion, it's just like, unless you're truly working on that path, then
Mhm.
I don't think you can really call it that line. Like,
Okay.
I think this is going to get me a lot of slack. I think the high intensity orange dream is just an orange dream. It's just a really well line bred animal, or it has
Mhm.
another trait. It could even have another gene. But the way I see it, it can't be the
Mhm.
same gene
Mhm.
and still, and without either having another gene in it to make it look
Mhm.
better, or it is an
Mhm.
orange dream. It's just a better example of one. Like, trust me, I mean, I'm not downplaying Aussie stuff, but
Of
I'm
course.
saying I've produced I produced quite a bit of orange dream, and you just see a wide range. Well, you breed like anything that has
Mhm.
like a color intensity to it, you'll get a
Mhm.
wide range of it. Like, you'll get anywhere from
Right.
like a orange dream that's kind of kind of have to squint at it, to like one you're like,
Right.
wow, that thing's orange.
Right.
And I think the best example of this
Mhm.
is the puzzle. The puzzle
Okay.
is the greatest example of line breeding, and I think it's really going to
Mhm.
separate the people who like the puzzle and who just wanted to
Mhm.
make a bunch of money out of it. Because when you get to
Right.
the puzzle has the
Mhm.
widest range
Mhm.
of pattern I've probably ever seen on a ball python, at least. And what I mean by
Right.
that is I've hatched puzzles you had to you if it wasn't for the eyes and the neck, you would have
Mhm.
been like, it almost looks like a normal. But then I've
Okay.
hatched out some puzzles that would blow away any clown. I mean, it would match the best example of a clown. And
Okay.
I think that's going to really deter people, because like I said,
Mhm.
ball python people are generally very used to just the general, all right, this, you're going to breed a clown and it's going to look like this. I mean, you might get
Mhm.
slight variations in it, but you're not going to get like, is that a clown? You're going to get a clown.
Right.
But a
Right.
puzzle,
Mhm.
you can get a puzzle and breed a
Mhm.
puzzle, and it ends up
Mhm.
like, you can get really high extreme looking puzzles, low
Mhm.
extreme looking puzzles, and
Right.
everything in between. And I tell people, if you're
Mhm.
going, and neither one's a bad thing. It just depends what light, or kind of which ones you like. And if
Right.
like, depending on what you like, you just take your collection and focus it more towards that. And what you do to line breed.
Mhm.
And I think the reason why a lot of ball python people in general don't like doing it is because it does
Yeah.
involve some inbreeding. That's just a part. I mean, even double recessive, unless you have another
Yeah.
friend that's making them that you could swap with, or
Mhm.
triple or whatever recessives, chances are you're going to inbreed regardless. And inbreeding
Right.
isn't bad unless you don't know when to stop. Like, there's a point where, especially when you're working with, a lot of these traits, when you're working with a lot of these traits, you can get, a lot of them having issues as far as
Mhm.
fertility,
Yeah.
longevity,
Right.
just issues in general. And I just,
Uh huh.
people just, once you've done, you just do, like, I don't know, it depends on the mutation though too. Like,
Okay.
say if you did, say if you're trying to line breed spiders, you're probably going to have to be a little careful. Same thing with like caramels, or something that
Mm.
people know already have some sort of issues, because you
Mhm.
can just you can make those issues worse.
Okay.
Like, but you can't, but to do that, you got to inject new blood in it to,
Yeah.
strengthen those genes. But you can make anything look better. Like, another one I think's a great one, sunset.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
drives me nuts when people because I got a sunset, so I
Uh
have
huh.
skin in the game too. And there was a reason why I did it. Well, there's a few
Right.
reasons why I did it, but one reason is because I see a ton of
Mhm.
potential, and people just, oh, it's a brown snake. Well, it's like, well, if you don't want to work to make it better,
Mhm.
then yeah, it's not going to get better. So, but
Right.
I mean, the sunset has. This is what I mean. If people got step outside of their box, look at maybe
Mhm.
a different species.
Mhm.
You can look at a ball python, and I'm telling you, it will. Like, I look at the sunset, I think of the blood boa and boa constrictor. I'm not a boa guy, but it is. I
Right.
almost guarantee you, it is. If you could physically breed a boa and a python, like a blood boa and a sunset, I almost bet you'd get some kind of a blood sunset, whatever you'd call it, because they're the same. I think they're the same trait, just in different species. That's another. It's like albino. It's like pied. It's like all like T positive, T negative. It's all these can be in different animals. Just and then people just, I don't know. They just don't want to. If it's not in their particular species, then they don't want to. They don't want to look outside of them. But when I look at the sunset, I think of the blood boa. And what looks really cool in the blood boa, what is it? The dragon or whatever, the albino
sun dragon.
Yeah. And I'm telling people, I'm like, so you're telling me they've done all these other genes in it, but no one's tried the albino. And I'm telling people, I think it'll bring a resurgence back to the albino gene in general, just because I think it'll look that crazy. Rather, it'll stay looking crazy to adulthood, who knows? But like I said, you line breed. You breed better. And I'll give people kind of like an idea of general idea of what they could do. Say you're trying to make a trade. Say you don't know where to start, right?
Right.
So you breed. I'm going to use sunset for an example. You breed a sunset to a sunset. A lot of people don't want to do that because they're still high in animals. No one just, well, some people might, but a lot of people, they want to cash in on this, essentially. They're not worried about making it better. They just want to make their investment or whatever. But you breed, say you breed 2 sunsets together, you get 6 or 8 eggs. They're all going to be sunset. Well, in that sunset clutch, you're going to get maybe not a huge, but you'll get a variation between dark sunsets, kind of sunsets, and then you might get one animal, just one out of the 6, that looks way better than the rest. Don't sell that animal for a higher price. You keep that animal back. Then you raise that up regardless of what it is. You breed it back to mom or dad, depending on the sex. And you keep going like that, and then you'll make another clutch of all sunsets. And then you'll get maybe you might get 2 animals or 1 still, who knows? But you're not going to get a huge range of where everything's going to look like that particular animal. But you just keep going like that, and then every once in a while you inject new blood. You don't want to, and you want to try to get a good example, so you don't try to water down too much of what you've been working on. And like depending on the mutation, can really depend on how you can still continue down that path. Like as far as like puzzle, I've noticed with puzzle, if you want really good puzzles, animals that have really good connected pattern tend to get like hats. I'm talking about hats. Hats that have good connected patterns seem to make really good looking puzzles. So just because like I have an example. I have two pinstripe het puzzles, females. One of them looks like your traditional pinstripe, just nothing special, just looks like a pinstripe. The other one, on the other hand, is really reduced. Like, doesn't have a whole lot of noise up on the sides, so it's really reduced looking. I bred a pastel banana het puzzle to it, and generally speaking, if you want to get the strongest phenotype, you breed the 2 homozygous animals, and you'll get a wider range. Then you'll get, like I said, a wider range as far as looks. You won't get like, if you breed head to head or head to visual, you might get half or 1, or you'll have a bigger sample size. But I bred these 2 hets together, and I got a pinstripe in there that blows me away. Like, this animal literally has no breaks. Oh, well, okay, I lied. There's one little break, but aside from that, this pinstripe puzzle has solid sides as far as there's almost no noise in this. It almost looks like what you would think a tri-stripe pinstripe would look like, kind of, minus the sides. But I mean, the dorsal wise, it looked almost similar to that. And I'm just like, dude, that. And then I've had pinstripe puzzle because people were poo-pooing the pinstripe puzzle, going, "Oh, it just doesn't look that good. Oh, it just looks like crap." And I'm just like, they foo-foo it after one animal, and then they're just like, "Oh, it's not worth my time. I don't want to do it." And I'm just like, you guys give up on stuff just way too easy. Like, I mean, and that's how I can usually tell people who are going to really stick into this hobby are the people who just like, they have no patience, like absolutely none. And I have to say,
Right.
this hobby, I've seen some people, I guess it's just people in general, but just patience is terrible.
Right.
Terrible. It's like,
Yeah,
come
that's
on,
true.
man. I
Yeah.
will only, okay,
Mhm.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. No, no.
I was going to say, I
What
will
were you going to say?
only buy babies just
Mhm.
because they're easier to quarantine, first off. And I'm patient. I will wait.
Okay.
I'll buy tiny babies. It doesn't matter in
Mhm. Okay.
anything. I buy. It's not to say I haven't bought in adults. I bought in adult animals, but generally speaking, when you start buying adults,
Mhm.
you can run into all kinds of issues. I don't know if you know this, but I used to work for Ben Rennick.
Yes.
I used to work for him for
Yeah.
years and years,
Mhm.
and I picked up a pastel spot nose het puzzle. I picked up from him, a male, proven breeder male.
Okay.
I got that animal in 2000 and let me think, it was either, it had to have been right before he passed or was taken. I mean, it was maybe early 17, 16.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
this animal's only bred, a combined out of all those years,
Mhm.
only bred 2 times. Just
Okay.
twice. And that is
Okay.
a proven breeder adult. I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just sticking to buying the babies. And then, like,
Mhm.
especially buying adults, like when it comes to like females, you can run into issues like you don't know
Mhm.
why the breeder's selling those animals. I mean, if it's a reliable source, yeah. But
Mhm.
even then, you can run into issues where, I don't know, you get like viruses, mites. I tell people
Mhm.
nowadays, one thing you got to watch out for is when you're getting these animals, especially
Mhm.
adults,
Mhm.
especially if you don't know who you're getting them from. My biggest
Mhm.
thing is you don't know why they're selling them. They're not going to tell you, oh, a virus, ninovirus wipes my whole collection out. They're not going
Mhm.
to tell you that. They want to sell
Right.
those animals for a reason. So that's why people need
Yeah.
to think. That's why
Right.
babies are always the best way to go, because you can quarantine them easy. You can,
Yeah.
they adjust to your surroundings better. That's why I
Mhm.
love babies. I do not waste my time. I mean, I guess if I really wanted something, I might get an
Mhm.
adult male, but that's only because I generally keep my adult males smaller than most people. So I can keep
Right.
mine in a smaller area to quarantine it and not have to keep it in something too big, because I only got just small V18 tubs, and I can interchange them with
Okay.
like a 32 or 35 short tub, but
Mhm.
I can't house big adults. So that's why that's another one that kind of prevents me from getting adults. But yeah, like I said, I think that's what really is patience. People don't have
Yeah.
patience, and I know this derives from the line breeding thing, but line
Mhm.
breeding involves patience. You have to be patient. Like
Right.
like another probably the best example of this I've heard so far as line breeding goes, and it's not a
Mhm.
ball python, it's a
Mhm.
carpet python. Like I said,
Okay.
people associate carpet python, when I'd say jungle carpet, people automatically think black and yellow. Well, my
Right.
buddy Nick, he's been working
Mhm.
on a jungle. It's called the ivory jungle, and he only works with pure
Okay.
animals, so there is no crosses in these animals. And it's a
Okay.
black and yellow carpet python. No, not black and white carpet python. And he's been working on this for like
Okay.
almost as long as I've been alive. That's how
Okay.
long it can take for some of these projects. It just depends how the phenotype of that you're looking for.
Okay.
Like better looking puzzles, that wouldn't take too long. Now
Yeah.
sunsets could take a little bit, because
Mhm.
the only problem with the sunset is I don't think you'll ever get those rich, no matter how much you line breed, I don't think you'll get those intense reds whenever they're adults,
Mhm.
because for whatever reason, and this harkens, like whenever you keep a bunch of different species, that like a lot of species, at least even in boas, a lot of boa and python species that have red
Mhm.
neonates, they
Yeah.
don't tend to stay red. For whatever reason, the python doesn't want to grow to be red.
Okay.
The only exception to that rule is like the blood pythons and stuff like that. But generally
Okay.
speaking, they don't seem to want to keep red. But if you can keep it a dark orange, like I bet you can make a sunset almost stay that orange that a hypo sunset looks like. I mean, obviously maybe not
Okay.
quite as ghostly looking, but I bet you can
Mm-hmm.
keep one to where it has that kind of orange, you know. And it's the same thing with like pastel. You can make pastels look better, but it, like I said, it
Right.
takes time. You can't just get one good example animal, breed
Mm-hmm.
it, and then breed it to another combination, and
Mm-hmm.
then expect all the babies to look good. No, you're going to get a wide range till you focus that phenotype. So, like I
Right.
said, there is such a thing as a line breeding, or it's such a thing as a line bred trait. But the way I know ball python people typically do,
Mm-hmm.
I doubt a lot of them are. They're just a good example, or someone
Mm-hmm.
just so happened to breed a darker normal,
Mm-hmm.
darker colored normal with an albino, and you just got
Mm-hmm.
one animal that looks nice, because you're going to still get a range of looks. If you got a high contrast albino and you breed it to
Mm-hmm.
just a regular albino or even another albino, you're going to get a range of just, a standard yellow and white, and you'll get
Mm-hmm.
a lot of looks in between before you might get that real darker yellow and bright white. Like I said,
Right.
that just takes time. And like I said, patience seems to be the biggest problem just in the industry as a whole. But as far as
Right.
making these genes look better, that's just my opinion.
Right. I mean, I do agree with like like everything that you just said. And then I'm going back to what you mentioned about high intensity, like Orange Dream. The difference is Ozzy never said it's, he's online, meaning that, like anything else, quote unquote, are not compatible with it. You know what I mean?
It's
That's a
not.
completely different thing. You
Oh,
know
it's
what
a
I mean?
different gene. It's not Orange Dream.
No, 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 no. So what I mean is that high intensity, like OD can still. I mean, you can still, breed it to like a regular OD. So he never call it his own line
Yeah.
or like this, particular line. The
Well,
problem is, huh?
he's by him stating high intensity, he
Mm-hmm.
essentially put his stamp on it that it is a separate line. That's another thing too,
Mm-hmm.
is naming
Mm-hmm.
system. When people name stuff, that, like, to me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind if he calls it high intensity. If it's a better orange stream, better than other
Mm-hmm.
ones, then I totally understand why you name it, because you want to have a kind of
Right.
an identifying number, name, or whatever for individual mutation. So, so people can identify them and know that they're different. But as far as, like, I like how he said high intensity orange dream. He didn't call it, the super orange, or gave it some outrageous name that we have to try to
Mm-hmm.
therefore remember. And that, I think that's another
Yeah.
problem, is the naming system is
Right.
hot damn, man. I mean, we have so many names for so many mutations that are the same thing, and it just makes it so difficult for new people to just know what's going on. I mean, they just,
Right.
like, I have to explain to people, is butter and yellows are the same, is what is it, static confusion and acid or whatever.
Acid. Mm. Yeah.
Acid. I'm just like, it's all the same stuff. I mean, they could granted have their own different looks, or slightly
Mm-hmm.
different looks, but I don't. I mean, that's,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, that could be a something that could have been line bred. If different breeders were
Right.
taking them different directions.
Right.
Like someone said a long time ago, I remember someone said, you can almost know, like, whenever you get an animal from someone, like, that animal has a distinctive look to it, that you can
Mm-hmm.
almost equate it to a certain group of breeders. Like Ben Rennick, like,
Right.
he had his animals had a certain look. You can, when someone bought an animal, you almost like, yeah, that looks like a Ben Rennick animal. I'm not talking about, well, maybe quality, but I'm not talking about weight or height or length or whatever. I'm talking just like the look of the animal. You can look at it and go, that looks like a Ben Rennick animal. That looks like an Aussie animal or a Justin animal. And luckily with mutations, you can kind of place on, all right, what mutations does that individual breeder work with the most? So
Right.
I don't know. It could be, you work with a lot of weird thinker stuff, man. I look at your Instagram page,
Yeah.
man. I go, wow, he has a lot of different, like, I have to commend you,
Right.
though. That's some different, like, I hatch out something different, and if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, like, make me go wow right away, I'm kind of like, all right, I'm gonna scooter this out. I'm gonna sell this
Mm-hmm.
to such and such. Like, it's not.
Right.
The problem with me is when it comes to dinker stuff like that is
Mm-hmm.
I have so much stuff going on. Like if I work with a dinker, it has to be different. Like it has to be like really something special. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like not to like some of the stuff you were showing. Like I was so jealous of Anaheim too. By the way, I saw some of the stuff you were showing, man. I'm like, man, dude, there's a bunch of cool stuff out there that
Yeah.
I
So
unfortunately
many
got
of
to
them.
miss. Yeah.
Right.
But anyways, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. I mean, like Dinker. I mean, like everything that we see, so far when it comes to like gene or morph. I mean, it started from somewhere. Just like yellow
Yeah.
belly, it kind of
Yep.
like look like normal, but you never know until you breed it, and then you can produce like ivory. Things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. And then I still want to go back to that line breeding stuff because like going back to that like high OD, like Aussie never call it like it's a different
Yeah.
line or things like that. It's just a different quality of the animals. The
Yeah.
problem with people like calling it's online is because that particular individual, they want people to buy from that like him or like like this guy or whatever like that,
Yeah.
which is kind of like misinformation like all over the place right now. And then so like take a really easy examples, right? Are you familiar with that lipstick albino line? For from Boas
Yeah. Yeah.
from Tom Burke. Okay, so
Yep.
that one makes sense when he call it like he's online because if you breed it to like regular like albino from like Pete Call, they actually you can produce albinos, but you can see the difference within that leaders, right? So you can see the regular and then his own so-called line, the lipstick line. You can completely different. Then
Great.
by definition you can call it your own line because it's proven out to be true. You know what I mean?
So you can make two
Mm-hmm.
separate looking animals. Like they're okay. If you make them two different,
Yeah.
then I've heard of it, but I can't really think of like the actual look of the animal off the top of my head. But if
It's
it's
completely
true and they're
different. Yeah.
compatible, if it's
Yeah.
compatible, it could be like the candy and the candy and albino. Like people act like that's something new. That was going on in
Yeah.
retics years before the candy stuff ever happened.
Yeah.
But we don't pay attention to the retics. But the retics had
Yeah.
something very similar going on with them. But like
Right.
I said, you can correlate different species with different mutations, and they all work similar or the same, depending on they could even be the same mutation, just a different expression of it or something. Because like
Right.
oh, I mean, there's so many examples, man. Like, all right, the monsoon gene. That is a granite animal. It's just like the granite berm, just like the granite carpet python. People can
Right.
foo-foo it and go, oh, no, these little freckled-looking animals are my granite animals. And then when Dave Green came out with that, the monsoon, I go, that is a granite. If there's a granite in ball pythons, like every other species that has a granite, it's that.
Mhm.
I don't care that he called it, because I understand why he really couldn't call it that, because there's already so many granite animals. So, and I don't blame other people
Right.
for calling them granites, because I mean, at the time they didn't know what a granite ball python might have looked like, but
Mhm.
you can't blame them for calling it or something different. I hope the guy
Right.
overseas, though, if it's truly the same thing, just call it like a monsoon. Just, if anything, put your own initials on it and just call it whatever. I don't know his name, but your initials, and then call it a monsoon, so people know. Just like TSK, VPI, Jola, Marcus Jane. They didn't name that Xanthic something different. They just put their initials on it so they can identify this is mine. But I'm not going to call it something like the silver bullet, or give it something completely different, something hard for people to understand.
Right.
That's my thing.
Right.
Simplify this down so we don't have so many people so confused, because that's like I said, it's the biggest problem.
Right.
You're confusing people just by naming all these animals different names when they're essentially the same thing. Or
Right.
like I don't know, just like I said, just so many animals the same is it's confusing people. Like I said, my dad, like he's not into it nearly as much as me, but he likes
Mm-hmm.
it. But it's hard for him to understand what's going on. Like, what's the difference between this? It looks the same,
Right.
And some animals, yeah, they are different. But
Mm-hmm.
some animals that are clearly the same thing, but we
Right.
still, give them different names to make. I don't know if it's just the ego of the breeder that just likes to have it, or
Mm-hmm.
I call them wannabe scientists. It's like if people ever got into like the academia side of this industry, you'll see
Mm-hmm.
the same problem, but just
Mm-hmm.
less. There aren't degrees involved in it or science involved. It's just kind of
Right.
naming system. Same. Like in the academia field is like you got Ray
Mm-hmm.
Hosier. People hate him. Like they flat out hate this guy because this guy names everything whatever he
Mm-hmm.
wants, and then he throws a temper tantrum when someone disproves whatever it is and calls it.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing. It's almost kind of that I see in the reptile as far as like people wanting to name morphs differently to put like I heard you talk about it before. It's like people just want to have that animal their name on an animal or something, to promote
Mm-hmm.
themselves. Like
Right.
with me, I made the bamboo puzzle. I didn't name that animal. Sean named it. I just went with it because I'm not a dick.
Right.
If Sean wants to name it, he can name it. But like
Right.
he wanted to name, how Sean is. Sean's kind of outlandish. He wanted to name the GHI puzzle the Guzzle, and I go, "There's no way." I go, "I'm not naming no Guzzle." I was
Yeah.
like, "No." So yeah,
Right.
no, yeah, I
Yeah.
just yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to that monsoon project, um, some people actually kind of like figure out if it is the granite complex, which is kind of true. I mean, I get where they're coming from, and then if you compare it with Roland, the one in in UK, well, in
Yeah.
Europe, well, the one that he's working on right now, we do not know if they're actually compatible. So going
I
back to
feel
what you just said about the
the
name.
pro and the
Uh-huh.
problem with it is, I have a feeling no one's
Mm-hmm.
going to want to exchange animals, which I understand why, because those animals are still worth
Mm-hmm.
$15,000, $20,000. You don't want to send him an animal and him
Right.
never pay you back, send you
Mm-hmm.
money, or pay you back, or send an animal back, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. They're too expensive for people to want to prove it out, and I understand it.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
get that. Like I don't like I don't know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand why
So
people don't want to do that.
right. So going back to what you just said, so the reason that they cannot just put their initial, so let's say I'm Roland Monsoon, or like Dave Monsoon, because like both of them, they do not know whether if they're compatible. That's number one.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to like Azantic, you know uh, they're technically the same but different line, because like most of them, they're not compatible. So if you breed
Yep.
the head to head, you cannot produce Azantic. Hence why they have their own initial names. So let's say like Jolly Azantic, TSK Azantic. That's based on my opinion, that's probably the true definition of your own freaking line. You know what I mean? So going back to like the original question that I asked you, that when it comes to like had high contrast albino, that's just completely BS. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I feel bad sometimes, like for these new people that that they think they have to have like both hats of high contrast in order to make this simple albino. And then because I know how this particular individual, I don't want to drop any names, but I know how they came out with this stupid idea just to kind of like create their own name, but in the wrong way. I get it,
Yeah.
you need to kind of like create this like trend or like your name in this hobby, but do it the right way. So don't trying to fool people's like, oh, this is my online because it's this so and so and so. I mean, for us, we know what's going on, so I don't really care what they're
Yeah.
doing. I just feel
Yeah.
sorry about people, like new people that they're trying to get in. They just want to produce a simple albino or like pied. So and then pied, that's another thing too. That this guy in Alabama, I think. Yeah. So he's calling it his own high contrast pied. So I'm like, what is
Oh,
that? Like
I've heard
hat?
this.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, this is a long
I haven't
story.
heard
But
of this. I
anyway,
don't think.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So long story short, so I told like, well, he was actually one of my buyers too. So the one that looking for this high contrast pipe. So I was telling him, look, just buy this, just regular head pipe or like more market or whatever. You don't have to buy it from me. So just buy it. If you don't produce pipe, I'll pay you back on whatever you spent on the female. That's how. And he goes like, how do you know if it is gonna produce, the pipe? So I'm like, just working on it. If you don't produce any pipe, then I'll pay you back. So sometimes like things like this, I just feel like how can we solve these issues? Because like there are so many ideas. Sometimes there's so many input, and then there's so many like bunch of nonsense all over the place right now. Just like like yesterday when I was at Anaheim, people still like freaking out when they see the word spiders, and then they just like, no, 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 don't touch it, they're gonna die. They're not gonna, like this whole mambo jumbo about spiders
Oh man,
issues and
that
things
is the
like that.
biggest.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
I get so tired of that when
piss me
people
off
poo-poo the
big time.
spider stuff.
Right,
I go,
yeah,
they, they don't. All right, I'm gonna say something that's wildly unpopular. Is
it's
if you
fine.
don't like the spider, you shouldn't like chocolate, spot nose, hidden genwoma, champagne.
Right,
What's another one? All these genes make defective animals. I can give you
right,
plenty of examples. I have a chocolate spider. That snake, actually, it's probably right now. This snake's probably looping and spin. It's bred for me. It rather not have lived 25 years. I don't think so.
right,
But this
right.
animal, I mean, it laid 8 eggs.
Mm,
I have a spot nose hidden genwoma. Same thing. That animal at 10 o'clock at night just foop like a helicopter. Now I'm going to
right.
tell people, it's like if you're going to dog on one mutation, dog on all them, because all of them produce defect. Actually, here I'll even be more blunt. Everything that's a mutation is a defect. Every albino's a defect. Pied's a defect.
Okay.
All these genes are defects. There's a reason why you can only inbreed these genes so much before you start seeing issues. It's because they're defects. They have other traits to them that could cause blindness, motor skills, all muscle tone. There's these traits are all defects. People don't understand.
Right.
They just think a leopard is a super animal, or a champagne, or not champagne. Pastel's a super. It's super genetics. No, those are defective animals. Those animals are just anomalies that just appear, and then we, as just, I don't know what you call us, artists, we find it interesting, so we keep it and breed it and perpetuate those traits. So it drives me nuts when people want. Now, if spiders all just died, like, if they just died, then yeah, I could see why you wouldn't want to breed them. But
Right.
they don't. Dude, some of my biggest snakes and most ferocious snakes are spiders. Like, they are mean. Like, the only problem I have with them is sometimes their motor skills can be bad enough and miss you. Whenever you're feeding them and they nail you in the hand or at your feet, depending on where they're at in the rack. So.
Right.
Yeah, every time I hear people dogs, it's like the same thing in carpet pythons. We have the jaguar. It's the same
Super
thing
jag.
as spider. Yeah, well, the jaguar gene still has the wobble, and if you bred jag to jag, you get the lethal white snakes. And then you got the scorio boa, and boas I hear allegedly is similar to that too.
It has wobble.
Yeah, is what I heard. I it's hard to say. I'm only hearing this from other boa people. But I haven't seen. They don't seem like they're that bad. But then again, there's not a lot of them to know. Not like there are spiders and jags and all that. But yeah, anytime I hear people dog, like, and another one, I produced super chocolate banana, and it's weird. It acts a little different than the rest of the clutch. Like, you can see, like, I guess just the super chocolate in general can be an off animal, and I'm just like. The only reason is because Justin's made such cool stuff. People aren't going to shun those genes. It's just, we're not going to shun these genes because Justin, made them cool. Or there's some cool stuff you can do with them. It's just, I think it's just because Justin hasn't made some crazy spider thing. Oh, we're not going to, we can shun that gene, man. But yeah, it happens in a bunch of species. And if you want to get technical, they're all defects. They all have issues or could have issues. You just not or inbreeding them enough to see them yet, or you
Right.
just there's all kinds of different ways you can get these defects.
Right.
That's why some animals just fail, because when you're compounding so many of these defective traits. And that's another thing too, is when people think you can add this gene to make this gene better. Not necessarily. Generally speaking, since they're all defects, you're just going to perpetuate the worst traits and make it worse. The only thing I think it might be different in is like the blackhead spider stuff might be different because it seems, but I've never even seen a blackhead spider in person to see if they have that issues or if they keep breeding, if they could have issues or, but I don't know because I've never seen them. So
well, black cat and then with spiders, when you breed them together, the like majority of the offspring gonna look like spider. So there's like no different at all. The only difference is it seems like it solved all the issues. I can be wrong. I mean, there's no like like further
they don't make the
breeding
normal
or like
animal?
research forever.
I thought the blackhead
they
spider made
do
like a normal or something, made like a phenotypical looking normal or something.
Yeah, they do, but like majority of that everything coming from that clutch, like the spider, seems to be like super normal, and then you can keep breeding, and then create like bumblebee, and then like the rest of the offspring seems to be okay, based on what I know talking with a lot of people, huh? Yeah, and then
mutations can be so weird.
Yeah, well, that's probably the one of the best part about this hobby too. And then I'm going back to I think we have to be like really careful when like using the word defect because I don't want people to like freaking out right now. I mean like going back to like that chocolate and then I'm a raven. They're kind of like similar. And then I don't see any issues so far based on my experience. But I know sables, even though it makes a little bit similar combo, I know sables have a little bit issues, but not when it comes to chocolate like or those ravens, based from what I know. And then going back to what you just said, that's true. Like I mean, like when it comes to like defect or like issues, it's not necessary because of like the certain genes or because it has like like issue that literally coming from that particular gene. I mean, from let's say like albino. Of course, you're gonna have these so-called defect animals, but not because from coming like from the gene itself. You know what I mean? It could be from the incubation problems, or maybe the mom have issues. So it's not the gene. So I just want people to understand, and then they're not gonna freaking out like, oh my god, I have this albino, and they're gonna have this defect. So just make sure they, what I mean.
Yeah, you're not going to get defects with these genes unless you
have
obsessively inbreed the crap out of these. You obsessively inbreed.
Got it.
When I mean by this, if you're continuously mother, son, father, daughter, and you're continuously going down, and even that's not bad. Like I said, with line breeding, you have to do it. But it's not bad as long as you know when to, all right, step in. We need to add new genetic or new genes to it to strengthen those animals, because I mean, if you just got to know that line, and knowing that mutations are different than wild phenotype animals, that's why you really gotta watch how you do it. It's not hard to do, but you're not gonna, like I said, unless the breeder or something's just been inbreeding his stuff for, a while. I mean, that's the only time you're probably you could run into issues, but like I don't know, that's so far in the that's so far and in between as far as like having to do. I don't even know of situations where it's happened. Maybe with certain Australian stuff, but and like some Madagascar animals, you can run into it. Inbreeding depression, but it's not. Like I said, it isn't. Trust me, I work with Australian animals, people. That is the most isolated group of animals you can get. We can't import or we can't export anything. So whatever we get is what fell through the German porthole.
Mm-hmm.
is the joke. You know, that's just a joke that goes
Right.
on with Australian animals because it's
Mm-hmm.
always the European people that always have the best Australian stuff compared to us or something. Just because their zoos don't have the laws that our zoos have, AZA zoos have against giving private keepers their animals. So
Right.
that's why they typically get the cooler stuff first before we get it usually. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
people don't have to worry. I don't like I said, it's not. But I'm just saying, as far as like, if you're just don't dog one gene because because of a big breeder works with it, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
I just because the spiders is oh my god, dude, I'm telling you, I've spiders is such a genetically. If it wasn't for the defects,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason why they have defects too is because of the spine. Is whenever an animal's born, the way
Mm-hmm.
the pattern gets affected. Sometimes that can cause issues with the
Mm-hmm.
brain. The way
Mm-hmm.
the neuro issues with brain
Right.
stems and stuff. Whenever patterns are getting messed up, that's why you don't see albino animals or candies or lavenders that have neuro issues unless it's what you said earlier, incubator problems or something like that. You generally don't get those issues. It's usually only animals that have some sort of a pattern distribution that has the neurological issues, if any. And it's not all of them. Like I said, and that's another thing is people get so hurt about this stuff, and it's like, man, we should be lucky there aren't more genes with problems. Like, I mean, people who like get upset with the desert ghost thing, but it's like that's one
Mm-hmm.
animal out of how many mutations? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we should be grateful that most of them aren't like that. Like the same thing with Clown. We should be grateful Clown doesn't. Good God, if Clown had the spider issues, Jesus, this would be game over for a lot of people. They just be like, yeah, I'm gonna sell my collection. Can't work with these stupid animals or
Right.
whatever. But no, I don't know. Just people just need to just stop worrying about stuff like that because it has no. These animals live just as long as any other mutations. Like I said,
Right.
I have spider combinations and stuff like that that's still going strong.
Right.
So
What is your goal for the next 3-5 years from now?
probably
Mm-hmm.
probably puzzle and tri-stripe stuff. Those are my go-to
Okay.
mutations. Like those are two
Mm-hmm.
mutations I've really just like everyone has their two mutations. Like Justin's known for his pieds and clowns, and I can't think of someone else for instance, but we'll just use him as example. I want to be known for puzzles and tri-stripes. Those are my two genes that I
Mm.
like, and I don't think people realize what kind of stuff I got going on this year. There's only a few
Right.
people that have sent out pictures of fairly cool stuff. Put it like this: this year I can make
Mm.
Kevin McCurley animals, but with puzzle in it.
Mm.
If that gives anyone an idea of what I could be doing. I mean,
Okay.
and that's and let me be honest too. I do not hold out great hope. Like last year was so bad on odds that I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, it was a wake up call. It was like, wow, this was like, whoo, it was rough. It was rough. I had 22 eggs for GHI puzzles. Didn't make
Okay.
a single one. I made GHIs and I made puzzles,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't make none with the in between or the combined of the both. So I was
Right.
like, wow. I go, really? 22 eggs? Didn't get a single one. So yeah. So this year was pretty like just the hitting the nards to really solidify. You got to be patient. And don't get
Yeah.
too ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
So
What is your advice for new people that just started?
do what you enjoy. That's probably do
Okay.
what you really, really like. What I mean by that is like
Mm-hmm.
if you love the ball python community, but you just don't like ball pythons, don't
Mm-hmm.
get them because it'll make you miserable. I'm not saying them. It's just working with something you don't like or don't actually like just because you just want to be in with a certain crowd. It
Mm-hmm.
just it's not that those people won't accept you either. I'm sure you have plenty of non-ball python friends. So it's
Yeah,
just
a lot of them.
do what you like. Don't do what
Mm.
you think's going to be popular because
Mm-hmm.
the time that you get into it, it may not be popular anymore. You know, so just do what you enjoy. You know, don't worry about what
And
other people are doing and
yeah,
such and
and be
such.
patient, right?
Patience, yeah, that is like I said, dude. That like I'm gonna put that as a catchphrase, man. Like patience. You know, we gotta. You know, I have a quote printed out that I'm putting on business cards for
Uh,
patience because I'm just like, dude. There's one thing people lack. It's patience in this hobby. Patience and you know, just because I remember going to Pomona last year, and I had
yeah.
a breeder established breeder who
Okay.
was talking to me about puzzle stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, yeah, what kind of puzzle stuff you got? And I was like, oh, all I got right now is like, you know, this year babies, and he's like, oh, no, I just want adults. I go, come on,
Mm-hmm.
man. I go, you can't raise a baby ball python up to
Mm-hmm.
size within a year. Dude, I'm telling you, some of these people need to step out of the ball python box and get some of these species that take 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Trust
Right.
me, you'll learn patience really quick. Really quick.
Yeah.
And even like you may not even breed them whenever they're 5 years old. It might take you 8 years just to get them to like each other. And I'm just using that as an example because it's just the lack of, even with, like I said, not just new people. People like the guy I was talking to who's probably been in it for probably almost as long as I have. And I'm just like, you're not patient enough to raise a
Mm-hmm.
baby because
Mm-hmm.
they're just so worried about the cost. And the way I look at mutations, the way I
Mm-hmm.
look at any animal, right? It's not just a mutation, not just a species. I look at that
Mm-hmm.
animal and go, depending on how expensive it is when I buy it, I look at it and I go, will this sell at $500? And if in my head it goes like, you know, if it's $5,000, I think it could sell for $500. Like, I'll take a chance with it because it's one of those things. It's
Right.
like it takes time. It doesn't
Mm.
just happen overnight. You know, like I tell people with the
Mm-hmm.
puzzle gene,
Right.
I bought the puzzle in 2014, didn't breed till 2016, and didn't make any
Mm-hmm.
money off the puzzle stuff till 2000 and maybe end of 17 or 18. Like I didn't make money off the puzzle for years, but I made all my money
Mm.
back, and it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
and then some. And I'm telling people, it's like you got to be patient. I mean, you have to with any of the stuff, if you got like what Miguel does, and you know, like in a lot of other YouTubers, where you're using this platform. You know, if you're doing it my way, you're
Mm-hmm.
not as into the social media aspect of it. Then go to
Mm-hmm.
shows, go to talk to people. You know, if you're not someone who's very talkative, you might have a rough time, selling this stuff. But it's just like
Right.
you got to be, I don't know, and like I said, patience is key. I think that's something that a lot of people lack. And I hear it from everybody. Everyone's like, dude, I can't wait to breed this. I can't wait to breed this. I can't wait to put them together.
Mm.
I'm just like, yeah, but you got to be patient, because I tell people, if you don't have the patience to raise those babies, how are you going to have the
Right.
patience if you can't sell the babies she made, or say you end up holding on to them longer than you think? Will you have the
Right.
patience to hold on to those animals that long, or will
Mm-hmm.
you lose your mind and try to give like a puzzle away because you just can't sell it or something? I don't know.
Right.
That's probably the most. It's frustrating. It's just super frustrating. Like I
Right.
don't know. Yeah.
What is your okay? Let me ask you this. Really simple one. What do you think is the sleeper gene?
Sleeper gene.
Mm-hmm. Let's pick like one of them, just one. To be honest with you, I don't really believe such thing as sleeper gene because if you know what you're doing,
I don't think.
every gene is pretty much a sleeper gene.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
don't really. Yeah. I think every gene, like, honestly, like, the
Mm-hmm.
only reason I'm gonna say this one is just because of the price of it, and ergo,
Mm.
however high the price is goes, how many people are gonna talk crap on a project, right? So I'll say something like the Sunset, man. Like, just
Okay.
because the Sunset's expensive, people are dogging on it, but just you wait. I'm telling you, when someone makes
Yeah.
that something
Yeah.
really cool,
Yeah.
you're just gonna be like, well, darn, I
Yeah.
should get it
They
now,
are,
right?
yeah. Those that I'm still trying to bring down or bears on the Sunset Project are the same freaking thing, the one that did with like Banana and Coral Glow. They're the same
Yeah,
people. You know that,
exactly.
right? Yep,
Yep.
exactly the same
Yep.
people.
Same people. People who just there's like dogging a morph until it gets down to their price range or whatever, and then
Yeah,
they can get it. And it's just like that. That
same
just
people.
zaps all the fun out of it, man. Like I said, when I got into this hobby, I liked every aspect of it. Even the $50,000 or $100,000 snakes that I couldn't afford at 15 years old, I was still like, that is freaking cool. And I would never
Right.
chastise someone for making that kind of money off of any of that because I thought that was cool. I looked at it as, dude, if I can do that one day, or something, or if I could do something similar to it, that'd be
Right.
so awesome, But just the people who dog it because they can't get it, or and I'll tell something else too. I'm not a dude who has
Hmm.
tons of money, right? When I
Right.
bought that puzzle project, I worked at a factory, made $10 an hour. I was a
Okay.
broke. I was a broke younger guy. I think I was a teenager. No, I was like early 20s,
Mm.
and I was just like
Okay.
making $10 an hour, and I still bought that puzzle at $6,000 because I
Right.
really, really, really wanted it. And I bred snakes before, so I knew I could do it. I just had to get the animal. And if you can do it,
Right.
why are you going to talk
Hmm.
crap on it? Just get it, because like, I don't know, just at some point you're going to save money and the price is going to drop and they'll collide and you'll be able to get it at some point. There'll be a point where you'll be able to get it. You just got to be patient. And like that leads back to patience. People don't have patience to save their pennies to get that certain mutation or combo or whatever. And it's a shame.
Right.
And I think that's the problem with a lot of people end up breeding them too. Because a lot of people end up
Hmm.
breeding stuff they really didn't even want to breed. They just wanted to get this certain animal out of, but then they got all these animals and, because it is addicting. And it just, then they
Yeah.
don't know what to
It
do
is.
with it when they get it all. So,
Yeah.
I just, yeah, it's sleeper genes though. Yeah, I agree with you. Everything people look at as sleeper though, but I mean, ball pythons in general though. Really, what
Hmm.
mutations ever really been at like never had its day? Really, I mean, there's ones that are still waiting, but
Yeah.
realistically, I see almost every gene is gonna have its day. I cannot even. The only gene I could think of that may never have its day is the jaw of flying exanthic. Because everyone prefers all the other ones. But who knows? That one guy in this basement could be breeding the best looking ones we've ever seen. But like, I mean, and I know I'm probably gonna have people go like, screw you. I love the Jolly Flying
Nah, it's fine.
example.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, really, even them, I poo-pooed that. But I mean, really, they could even
Hmm.
have its day. All these genes will. I mean, I'm almost
Yeah.
certain at some point, especially if you see these big name breeders with these genes, you could
Hmm.
almost be certain they will have their day because they're gonna find something that looks cool in it, and I mean they're gonna reign supreme for at least a year or so before everyone has it or whatever ends
Yeah.
up happening with it. But yeah, just I don't know. I don't. Yeah, the sleeper gene. I don't really ever. Something might be dormant for now, but it's only for a moment before somebody ends up making something cool. And that's the thing. There's so
Right.
many people working on things that you just
Hmm.
don't know when it's going to happen. Unless you're just
Right.
in the inner circle or something. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Just real quick, so that everybody clear that when it comes to like Azantic, you can work with any line you want. So if you have Jolly, work on it. It's the
I'm
same
not
thing.
trying to
So I don't
dog.
want people to be like,
I
yeah, I
don't want
know.
people to think I'm like dog poop.
People will be
That
like,
was kind of a
Chris.
joke. Yeah, sorry. I
I
didn't
know,
mean
I
to,
know.
like, I don't want to
Yeah, it's
upset people,
fine.
but
Yeah.
because I was just kind of like at the moment, I was just like, what gene do I ever
Right.
hear anything about? And I was like, the Jolifine
Yeah.
Exanthics, when I don't hear
Yeah.
one. But it's not to say someone's not doing it. It's just, they're not
Mm.
being public about it right now.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
just never know. Just
Yeah.
every morph can have its day. It just takes the right person to work with it. And, like I said, like I said with the puzzle, I'm going to be
Yeah.
very honest. I think the puzzle's
Mhm.
going to have its day where people are gonna realize just how variable this gene is, and people are gonna
Mhm.
hatch out just as wide range of stuff. Like if you look at the spot nose puzzle that Will made and the one he bought from Dave, almost don't even look like the same. You would have thought there was a different mutation in there, but they're that variable. And then there was one that Dave made before he made those crazy ones that the few breeders got. and
Mm-hmm.
it didn't look. It kind of looked similar to him, but it was very broken up. It wasn't very chain linked like a lot of puzzles were. But see, like I said,
Okay.
and I don't even think people even know that animal exists. They only think of the ones that Dave made that following year with those other two he made, and that is the only two people ever think of. Oh, the puzzle sunset. That's that's a cool animal, and it is a cool. I thought the puzzle, not the puzzles, the sunset. Got my words mixed up. But the puzzle spot nose stuff, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be. I think it rivaled the clown spot nose. Like when I first saw those ones that Dave made a year or two ago, the
Mm-hmm.
spot nose puzzles
Yeah.
I know those
Yeah, that was
animals.
back in like 16, right? 2016 or
Well,
like I'm
I think
17
he made
maybe.
the very first one. He made one year, but then he
Okay.
sold it to Sean, I think, and then
Mm-hmm.
the following year in 17, I'm
Mm-hmm.
almost it was 17, he made those two really crazy ones that Will ended up with. And
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
Okay.
and I think, like I said, I think the puzzle is going to hit that thing where people aren't going to know what to do with it because it's just that variable. Because like I'm
Right.
telling you, I don't think the ball python industry has seen a mutation as variable as the puzzle. Like their heads are different, the patterns different, the eyes are different. The only thing that
Mm-hmm.
seems kind of consistent with even poopy ones and good ones is the belly tracks can kind of be, even that can be pretty busted up for them. But like I said, people are going to be, it's going to divide the people who really love the gene because they see cool, great potential in it, and then people who just want to make a quick buck off of it, but then realize like, well, I bought in cheap, got cheaper looking animals. Now I'm producing crappy animals, or whatever the case might
Mm.
be. But like I said, puzzles, like, and I'm heavily into the puzzle too, and I'm saying that. I'm just saying that just because it's not going to be a very straightforward gene that people, are going to be used to, like they are with
Yeah.
a lot of other genes, where they have a very consistent look, with that
Right.
set trait, So we'll see
Yeah.
though. Maybe I'm
Awesome.
wrong. Maybe people won't care. Maybe they'll be like, just puzzle the puzzle, right? But I mean,
Well,
I
they
don't
will.
know.
Yeah. Now that
Yeah.
we have like more and more people are working on it, that should be
Yeah.
good. So we should see like a lot of more like new combos coming in. So
God, I hope
2020
this
and
year
then
I can get
2021 should
some
be good.
going. Man,
Yeah.
as long as I don't have a bad year this year. What kind of crazy stuff are you doing with the puzzle? I know you got the puzzle stuff, right? Oh, what is
Yeah.
that laugh for? You got something dastardly off his sleeve.
Yeah. I'll let you know like on DM.
Okay, okay, good. We can toss
Yeah.
back ideas because, like I said, this year. I have some
Mhm.
potential to make some pretty cool double recessive stuff. Like
Yeah.
as long as I get the odds, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, even sex ratios you can get nailed on. Like people think as like if you're working on double recessives, then usually depending on how you're doing it, usually
Mm.
you're just wanting a good split of the two. But I've gotten
Right.
not killed, but I've gotten really close of getting killed with odds. Like because generally when I do double recessive stuff,
Right.
usually I'm doing like a visual to a visual. I'm not doing
Okay.
I usually don't try to do like a combo visual and another because I don't want to muddy up a lot of what I'm looking at. Like when I bought the puzzle, I bought just the puzzle. I could have spent less money and got a pastel puzzle, but I wanted to not be not cornered into the pastel. Well, essentially,
Mhm.
I just didn't want to
But
be
it's
cornered
fine.
into just
Yeah.
that area, with pastel. So, and then the same thing with the sunset. I just got a plain sunset because I did not want to be cornered in with the fire, the inchy, the whatever traits,
Mhm.
what other ones they've had out
Mm.
there. I just didn't want to be
Yeah.
cornered into that. So, and then
Right.
same thing with tri-stripe, we didn't have much of a choice with because there was, at least the time when I got it, there was nowhere near. Like I tell you what, 2019 was the year of the tri-stripe. I didn't realize how many people had stuff. I mean, pets just lying around. I knew, because like I said, I worked with Ben, so I saw a lot of what was going on, and I didn't.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, I don't know if all of them got them from Ben, but I know a few people did. Got a few hets
Yeah.
from Ben, but I'm just like, dang, I didn't realize there was just that many hets going around
Yeah.
out there. you know.
Yeah.
And I was
I got mine
thoroughly.
from TSK. Huh?
Me too. Yeah,
Go
that's
ahead.
where I got.
Yeah.
Well, I got one from Ben, which is TSK. Then I got
Yeah.
my other one from TSK because I got so frustrated. I'm telling you what, that was the fastest money I've ever spent. Was like I was cutting it
Yeah.
was a pastel head to a normal head. Actually, it
Okay.
wasn't a normal head. It was Ben's catacomb stuff. Dude, I worked for
Okay.
Ben. I got a lot of. I unintentionally got some of his dinker stuff. I'm not. Some
Mhm.
of his dinker stuff was cool, but some of it was just like, man, that like, I mean, you're pushing it as far as like how cool that actually looks. And the catacomb
Right.
was one I was just like, I didn't care at all about the catacomb. I just got it because it was
Mhm.
het tri-stripe and it was the only one he had at the time. So
Mhm.
I produced. This was like a couple of years ago. I produced 7 eggs, or got 7
Mhm.
eggs, and then all the
Mhm.
babies hatched. Didn't get a single tri-stripe. Didn't get a single tri-stripe out of that clutch. And I go, oh,
Right.
screw this. I mean, it literally was in moments after cutting that clutch, I like PayPal Colette the money because I was like, I need a male tri-stripe. This is, I was
Right.
so frustrated. I was steaming. I
Right.
was like 7 eggs, and which
Yeah.
I don't know, like that kind of leads me to something else I kind of want to talk about too when it comes to
Mhm.
mutations and stuff. Is I think
Okay.
another big issue we have in the industry as far as mutations go is
Mhm.
truly proving this stuff out, like taking it the full term, like as far as where I think we should be taking projects. So like what I mean
Mhm.
by that is like desert ghost, you could have saved so much people on money if you would have just proved it out completely. And what I mean by completely is not just prove to see if it's an inheritable trait, but like I said, some of these animals are going to have defects, like new animals, but we don't know what they are if they're
Oh,
new.
you're talking
So
about desert
yeah,
gene, so
I'm
not
using it as
desert
a, but
ghost.
I'm talking about like at the time, like when it was still new. And it's just
Mhm.
like if people would have just raised up a female, like raised a male, bred it, see what the babies look like, and go, okay, now let's see if there's a super first. Raise up a female, breed the female. You know, instead of just, all right, we got the male produced, we're gonna start letting these animals out. We're just, I mean, just letting them out. Same thing with like, what would have been another one? I honestly, I thought Tri-Stripe was gonna be like this. And I got a good argument on why I thought it was going to be like this. You know, I have nothing against Dan or Colette Sutherland either. I just thought this gene wasn't going to prove out to be a simple recessive. And the only
Mm.
reason I say that is, like I've said throughout this whole interview, is I arcane a lot of my knowledge of what I've looked at from looking at other
Mhm.
species. You know, when I look at the
Mhm.
sunset, think of the blood boa or et cetera, et cetera. Now, when I looked at the tri-stripe, it looks
Mhm.
really similar to the tiger carpet python. And I mean really similar. It's a tri-stripe animal, you know, one strong
Mhm.
dorsal pattern and then
Mhm.
2 stripes down the side, just like the
Right.
tri-stripe. And I looked at it and I go, and I didn't look at it right away. Honestly, I
Mhm.
just assumed people knew what they were doing. And, you know, if anyone knows Ben, people know Ben did things on a very large scale. Like, well, I guess relatively speaking, it was pretty large scale. He had 3 AP racks, so there was 11 each, so about 33 females, het tri-stripes, all of them breeding. Granted, he only did head to head, which I don't know why he
Mhm.
did. It's not the route I plan on taking, but he did head to head with all of them. Some of them he had to because they
Right.
were double recessives, and for nearly,
Right.
I think for nearly 2 years, didn't produce a single one. Granted, not all 33 females went, but say 25 or
Mm.
20 of them went. That's still a
Right.
pretty good selection to go through. And then there was other
Right.
people. I had another guy, CJ's Pets. He's out in Jefferson City, Missouri. He's another pretty big guy. He said he did it for 2 or 3 years, did head-to-head breeding, and finally, after like 2 or 3 years, got a visual. Well,
Yeah.
all right, now that arcans me back to what I thought. I was like, well, is this gene really a simple recessive? I thought it was a polygenic trait because that's what it is in carpet pythons. And another reason it made me think that is I got on the tri-stripe group and somebody made some
Mhm.
tri-stripes. And what makes a polygenic trait a polygenic trait? Poly meaning many, so that means there's multiple different traits going on. So you'll get a wide range, because you might get one gene that
Right.
causes the lateral stripes, and then one that
Mm-hmm.
causes the dorsal stripe. Then you might have another gene that causes how far down that dorsal stripe goes. Because
Okay.
in a polygenic clutch, you'll get a wide range of animals. Animals that look
Right.
normal, animals that'll have, say for tri-stripes' sake, will be broken up tri-stripes, and then you'll get animals that look like tri-stripes. Well,
Right.
I can't remember what the breeding was. It might have been a visual to a het, and dude,
Mm-hmm.
they got such a wide ranges of looks, and that gene made me think, wow, is that polygenic? And
Right.
I talked to another guy that I really, really respect in this industry, Ryan Young. Like people, like he knows his stuff. I asked him because he works with the tri-stripe gene, and I go, so is
Okay.
this tri-stripe gene really, really an inheritable gene, or is it a polygenic trait? Because I gave him the example and then a few other examples, and he
Mm-hmm.
goes, well, then he questioned it, but I think he was pretty firm on what he thinks it was, something recessive. Well, then I asked Dan and Colette Sutherland. I asked them, I go, did you breed, like this is going to sound like a silly question, but I asked them, I go, did you breed a tri-stripe to a tri-stripe before? Because, all right, if it's polygenic, that is the one way you should be able to distinguish if a gene is polygenic or recessive or incomplete dominant or whatnot.
Right.
Is if you breed a visual to a visual, like let's say like a recessive sake, we breed a visual to visual tri-stripe. Statistically, everything should be tri-stripe unless you're dealing with parthenogenesis or something. Well,
Right.
or if it's polygenic, regardless if you're breeding two animals that look alike, you won't get a whole clutch of tri-stripes.
Right.
You might get a high percentage of animals being tri-stripe look, but you'll get a lot of other phenotypical looks. And I asked Dan and Colette that, and they said, yeah, we bred it. I didn't ask the result because I was like, this is already a stupid question. So I was like, I'm just going to assume they did produce all tri-stripe. Otherwise, it would just be ignorant otherwise. And not to mention, I know Dan and Colette Sutherland worked with Ben Morrill, and anyone knows who Ben Morrill is. He's a geneticist, an actual geneticist, so he knows what he's talking about when he, and he worked with Dan and Colette Sutherland to write, what was it? He did his thesis or something with them, so he knew quite a bit going on with their collection, so I'm assuming they knew what it was essentially. So
Yeah.
that was just something I wanted to say because I remember tri-stripe for a while there. I was like really questioning it, but then like I said last year, so many people made tri-stripe combos. I mean,
Yeah.
we went from having maybe 4 different combinations with tri-stripe to having I think almost 10. I think roughly. Like, I mean, it was a lot. It was more than I was anticipating. It actually shocked me how many people I saw with tri-stripe stuff. But
Yeah.
no, I think tri-stripe's an interesting one. That one I'm really excited for.
Yeah, I think the main reason, like the big difference between before and then right now is because like us as a buyers or like as a breeders, we have like more knowledge that available, like because we are like sharing now, compared than before. Like people only looking for new stuff. They don't care if it is recessive, whatever nonsense. Anything new, they're gonna buy it because they always want to be the first. Now it takes more than just being like new or being the first. You gotta have like the whole 9 yard because there gonna be a lot of questions, right? And then as the original, you have to. Huh?
Yeah. What I was gonna say is I thought a good example of that though was the scaleless stuff. I really wish.
Okay.
I mean, I don't really wish because I don't care because I don't work with it. But I think for people who, if you like, this is when it gets in the sketchy territory because I've never made a $50,000 or $100,000 snake. I don't know what I would do if someone offered me. That's a lot of money for someone to be offered. But for me to sleep better at night, I would like to make sure that this person can't come back and says this animal's defective in some way. So what I mean by that is I wish someone would have not just made a scaleless animal and then just start selling all these animals. They should have raised up the scaleless animal, bred
Mm-hmm.
2 scaleses together, and then guess what? You would have never had to deal with any of these questions like, all right, will they live to adulthood? Will the will the males reproduce? Will the females reproduce? Will any, will the female die if she breeds? Will the babies be viable if the female, all these kind of questions you could have knocked out if you just stuck just instead of it been a 1 to 2 year project or 3 year project, you could have
Mm-hmm.
made it. It might have been
Mm-hmm.
an 8 or 10 year project, but for 50
Right.
or $100,000
Mm-hmm.
to sleep better at night, I think I would have just done it that way and saved myself the headaches of all that stuff. But like I said, I've never
Yeah.
done that, so I can't really
Mm.
say
Yeah,
that's how it
but
would have worked.
it's kind of hard because I get it where you're coming from, but like as a breeders or like someone that actually coming out with like a new things, right? It's really tough because sometimes you have a friends that really want your new things, right? And then they offer you like big money. I'm talking about like big money, and
Yeah,
then
that's what I'm saying.
it's really hard
Yeah,
to kind of like say no because you have to keep in mind because you need to cover your initial investment at the first at the first place, right? So sometimes selling like some of the like your babies or the offspring is always better to kind of like get back and then get your investment back while you're still working on it. So sometimes it's always good to have like new buyers that are willing to invest early, meaning just kind of like take the risk with you at the beginning. But the problem about this hobby is like I get it when there's gonna be a lot of questions, right? But sometimes majority of the people in this hobby, they like to blame on other people's, they like to pointing their
yeah,
fingers before even so let's say take examples like the Atom Scalars project, right? I mean, people that blame me, like Brian, or like whoever, because of the issue about the scalers. Don't blame him because he was still working on it, you know. And then he's the one that actually trying to kind of like establish this project. So anyone that acquire the animals from him, and then if there's an issue, then there's your own risk. I mean, me personally, I would never, blame it on other people if I just, jumping into the new project and then some, let's say, the male have issues or the females have issues. That's the risk that I'm willing to take. So that's why, like, as I mentioned, like before, like it takes much more work now because people get educated, like educated, and then they know more like what's going on now. So you cannot just like breed one thing and then produce like like something different, and then you want to sell it and then call it as a new things because there's gonna be question that you have to answer it first before you call it your new morph
yeah,
or like new project or whatever like that. You know what I mean? That's a completely different back like 10 years ago. So
yeah.
yeah.
I like I said though, I understand
Hmm.
why. Like I said, I understand the fact of the money and the willing people are willing to take that risk. But like
Right.
just for the aspect and the integrity of that breeder, I would think just
Right.
I don't know about you, but there's some stuff you can do where you just don't sleep well at night. But if I had 50 grand or something and someone's like literally pissed it down the drain because the thing is we deal with animals too. And the fact that
Uh-huh.
we deal with animals, that already comes with all its own problems, right? Like
Right.
animals dropping dead, animals not breeding, animals
Mm-hmm.
having a virus and then killing your whole collection.
Yeah.
And then you're really screwed.
Right.
But that, like I said, so I think the least the breeders could do is at least try. Like I said, because I understand it's a lot of money and it's hard for me to speak off of that because I've never been in that situation. But
Yeah.
I think you would have saved a lot of headache just from people bashing you, and because really, let's
Mm-hmm.
face it, the Sunset, the real only issue that we've ever had with Sunset, people griping about is, oh, it turns brown. Well, at that point, you can't make
Yeah.
everyone happy. If they're grumpy about it being brown, then you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to make them happy. But as far as
Yeah.
something like the desert goes, the scaleless, the
Desert, not desert ghost. But you keep
desert,
saying
yeah,
desert ghost. Yeah.
desert. Sorry, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So when it comes to stuff like that, it it just I don't know, just it would save you a lot more headache just to get it
Yeah.
all done and out in the open with. Especially, and I think it should even more so if the project didn't cost you that much to get in. Like like I said, I understand where you're getting at, but like I said, just
Mm-hmm.
for the integrity of the breeder, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. I just think it'd just be
Yeah.
a lot. It'd be a smoother
Yeah.
and just better if you
Yeah.
just proved it out. Just so, like I said, because
Yeah.
us dealing with live animals, we already deal with so much stuff as it is. But then on top
Mm-hmm.
of it, to prove that a project,
Right.
can't reproduce, or can't
Yeah.
doesn't have viable supers, or
Yeah.
whatever the case might be, you know,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
happened before. People
Mm-hmm.
hid the fact that some of these animals have,
Mm-hmm.
lethal supers, and people just
Yeah.
brush it under the rug and said,
Yeah.
we'll let people
Yeah.
find out the hard way, or
Right.
I don't
The
want to
thing
lose
is,
the.
mhm. The
Yeah,
thing is,
so
sometimes like when you have like the first like new things, right? Because like the scalers, I mean, well, he didn't know if the female have issue with like laying eggs or things like that, and then because by the time he produced the very first class, like everybody wants to get into the project, right? So it's not like he's trying to like fool anybody, or trying to keep
oh yeah,
this bad
yeah. On that,
integrity. So it has nothing to do
yeah,
with that, you know what I mean? So it depends on like how you look at it. I mean, like jumping into the new project that unknown, which is still like working on it or things like that, there's a risk like become the part of your so-called investment, or things like that. But the thing is, my point is, don't blame it on the other people. So,
yeah,
just like that desert gene, right? Because when he first produced the genes, and then he produced that on tiger, which is desert and Angie, he didn't know if the female is not gonna
yeah,
lay eggs or have issues. You know what I mean? At that time, unless he already kind of like figure out, and then he's still trying to sell it to other people, then that's the issues. That's what you're talking about, the integrity or things like that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. It just just an
Mm-hmm.
overall thing. I just think it's just better regardless. It's always better if you can
Yeah.
get into someone and someone can show you, okay, these are all the results I have. Female
Yeah.
breeds, all this breeds. But you know what? The reason why you say that, and the reason
Mm-hmm.
why it's hard for people to do, is because people produce so many of these damn things. When people get the sense of like, all right, I'm going to sell these for this, this, and this, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to breed it to all this, I'm going to shelf it all, and then maybe
Mm-hmm.
let it out at a time. I go, it's like, why do you got to, I like the monsoon gene. I really, really do. I will get it at some point. But the way I see it is when I look at that list, like I look at that list of available heads, and then I saw the animals he's bred that animal to on his Facebook page or Instagram or whatever. I look
Mm-hmm.
at it and just, I don't know. It just, to me, justify buying that at that price, and I don't know who all has it. Because I know
Mm-hmm.
not a long time, but I remember years ago,
Mm-hmm.
like with the sunset, like when Ben spent $60,000 on it, he got like every other breeder who's working on it, who all he sold it to, just a list of stuff. But when you're buying, like, that monsoon gene kind of came out, and he tried to do it like the palmetto thing, but the problem is he
Mm-hmm.
didn't do it all the way. And what I mean by that is he did it with the visuals, but he didn't do it with the het males. And let me tell you, I've seen people but I mean kick ass at a project just with a het. Like, trust me, I've seen it firsthand. All right, Ben spent $60,000 on a sunset and a het male. He hasn't made, even to this day, Dave hasn't made a single dime off that female yet. But actually, no, I lied. He made 12 grand. But that het, he's made, oh, well over his investment back just off that het. And I know that's a
Okay.
secret a lot of people don't like to talk about with big breeders, and how a lot of people did get in the industry is with male hets. But that's what I
Mm-hmm.
mean as far as, if you're going to do something like the palmetto thing, you should have done it with just the het males. But see, the problem is that would have been a lot of animals he had to hold back. I don't know the
Yeah.
scale of Dave, but that would have been a
Mm-hmm.
whole lot of animals he had to hold back. But then again, if he didn't get so many of them, he wouldn't have had to worry about having so many of those. Even, like, this is something retic breeders do. Let's face it, not everyone can own a retic. So when you produce a certain amount, you have to cull. A lot of people will cull the rest of them. You know, it sounds cruel,
Right.
but it's just, it's kind of like a, I don't know, a sacrifice you make for the good of society, I guess. Because, I mean, with a
Okay.
mutation, it's a little bit different, but when it comes to like something like a retic where not everyone should own one, you know, it
Right.
can kind of be, you know, it'd be better that way. But like I said, that's kind of what I mean. Like, oh, like,
I think it's kind
oh,
of different when you know kind of like hold back on the visual males and then just sell the male hat. It's a completely different thing. You don't think so? I mean,
no,
like
dude,
with
I've seen people. I mean, no joke. I've seen people
yeah,
do some monstrous stuff just with a het male. Because, like I said, first off, the
yeah,
male doesn't
but
need to be that
yeah,
big.
for how
Most
long though?
people, for how long? What do you mean?
Yeah, because no. So what I'm talking about is like with visual male, you can produce like really fast because you can just bring all the hat and then for sure they are like 100% hat, right?
Oh,
With
you
with
do what
with
I see
hat
them.
male. Mm-hmm. Then go ahead.
Oh,
Huh?
I've seen them keep everything. You keep males, females, you keep everything. Yeah, that's going to be overwhelming, but if you spend, you know, $5,000 on a snake or $10,000 on a snake, and then the visuals are still
Mm-hmm.
worth that much, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
like no joke, like this, like, Ben, working for Ben opened my eyes when it came to a lot of this stuff, because you see it and you just go,
Yeah.
the power of a het male is nothing to take lightly. Like, I mean, like I said, I've seen
Yeah.
some people do
Yeah.
some monstrous stuff. Like, if you don't have to get a het male, then don't get it. But like I said, for a
Right.
new project, when you're letting that
Mm-hmm.
new project out, it's just like you're better off holding back those males too. Because I'm telling you, people
Yeah.
will do some. They'll beat. They can beat just as many people to a visual than the people who have 100% het males. And the reason why I say that is, all right,
Mm-hmm.
I've done this with a bam, because none of these, unless you got a really stubborn female, a lot of these animals just don't take long to breed. I've seen, like Sean with the bamboozle stuff, he had two males, two
Mm.
100% het males. I had 100% het female,
Mm.
and I beat him to it. Oh, he still never made one. But still, like I said, I even beat the other guy who had het to it, just because they don't take that long to get up the size. And you can, like I said, that guy just needs a crappy breeder male or male die or something like that, and all I just need is a good season, and I can beat anyone anyone can beat anyone, even with just a het male. So I mean, like I said, you can
Right.
do some serious damage with a het male. Like I said, I've seen
Yeah.
it firsthand, so I know it's possible.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm not saying that it cannot be done. So
yeah.
my like my point is like if you're trying to kind of like reserve or like stabilize the pricing in the long run, that's a completely different thing about holding back on the male visuals and then just selling the that male hat. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that you cannot be done or you can beat the one that have. It's a different thing, a completely different thing, in my opinion. Because holding back on the visual male, it can like prolong the value of the project, which is true. I completely agree. I'm not saying that you cannot do damage just by getting the 100% head male. I mean, it still
If
can
it's
be done, but
yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
no, it's fine. No, it's fine.
I was
Yeah, but
I was gonna say the
so I'm talking about value, huh?
I
No,
was
it's
gonna say
fine.
the
Go ahead.
damage you can do some bad damage. I will say this, like someone
Mhm.
who gets 100% het can do some serious
Mhm.
damage. Like as far as like
Mhm.
screwing stuff up. As far as like, all right, let's face it, a lot
Yeah.
of people who make these, if they do go do that route, they're not going to do what
Mhm.
Ben did, hold everything back. That was like, I mean, hundreds of animals. I think no one's
Yeah.
going to do that. What they're going to do is they're
Yeah.
going to sell them, wholesale them out. And the problem with that is, when people start getting them, and then that's when you start getting those random people at pet stores who get,
Yeah.
oh, a dinker project, or oh, my new line of Sunset, or my new line of Puzzle, or my new line of.
Mm.
At some point, it doesn't. I guess it doesn't matter, because I know big franchises do that. Like, reptile industry and gourmet rodents because they have to fill those orders. So it's a lot of times they will throw in hets, and I've seen that happen too, where people get a het from a Petco and they go, "Oh, I got my dinker het," and then you look at it and you go, "I bet that's a pie or a het piebald male." Then they breed it, ends up being a pied or a het pied male, and that's so I definitely can see why. That's kind of another thing too, and that's probably why. I don't know. I'm going to go on the assumption a lot of people probably knew that about het males, but I can see why. I remember that was never a big thing to talk about because a lot of people just don't want people to produce a lot of hets or cost hets and muddy the waters out there and get a lot of half animals out there that you don't know what they are. Or, like I said, running into the problem of someone just getting those animals and producing sunsets like just a casual pet keeper. But that's just what I mean. But like I said, that could all be controlled with small amount of breedings, and that's where I think that the ultrasound really kind of hurt a lot of that. Whenever people were able to breed one male to like 20 females or something, you were able to really hammer out a project with a male. So, but like I said, just like, and I've seen this in other projects too, not just ball pythons, but other projects too. As far as like, if you don't breed the crap out of it, they'll obviously retain value longer, but you don't get the large sum of money that you would like to probably get for said project. That's, like I said, I've seen it happen. Not like a lot of other projects. I haven't seen like the numbers that ball pythons ever get asked for, though. As far, at least some projects, or at least especially back in the day when projects were 20 to 30 to $100,000 at least for certain ones, depending on what they were. So.
Yeah.
Just depends.
Well, we already talked about, like almost close to like 2 hours. So.
Oh, wow. Sorry, sir. Didn't mean to keep you out.
No, it's fine. No, time flies, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So, next time we can talk about that carpet python. So.
Yeah. All right.
But
definitely.
not tonight. Yeah.
Again. Like I said, I share a lot. I love your standpoint on the hobby because I do. It sounds like we were bickering a little bit, but I do share a lot of what you believe in. Like, I really, really do. I just might have a slight tweak to it, but everyone has their own differences. Not huge differences, but little differences in their way they either conduct business or work projects or do that. But like I said, I really agree with a lot of stuff you said off of the reptiles unplugged when I heard you. I was like, man, I really like what this guy's saying. Makes more sense than anyone else I've ever heard of. At least in my mind, it did. And I was just like, that's why I was like, I really liked what you were doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Are you going to be in, are you going to Arlington?
Dude, I want to. It's been years since I've been there. I will really, I don't want to sound like sad about this or anything or bring anything down, but I really want to see Dave and Tracy Barker before. Because I heard Dave's not doing all that well, and I'd love to see him. I don't know. That's just what I've heard, but I'd like to see him before, because they are getting up there in age. And like I said, just like with many people, they inspired me, in this hobby too.
Yeah, they are.
And I've never met those guys. I've never got to meet either of them, and I'd love to get to meet them.
Okay.
Yeah, no, never. I've been to Arlington one other time, but they weren't. I guess that was when they were on a show hiatus, I think. But that was like years and years ago. But yeah, I'd really love to see them. And hang out with you guys too. I enjoy hanging out with you guys up there too. You guys are all cool. I remember. I think it was. Did you go to Pomona last? Yeah, you went to Pomona last year, right? You live up there, right? That area. Yeah. I was gonna say last time I hung out with a bunch of you guys up there. I was like, that's why I was sad that I didn't get to go to Anaheim this year because it was party. It was a lot of fun. I miss it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Will. So thank you for your time, and then we'll talk soon.
Thank you for having me.
Let's do like the second part, but how and then we can talk about that carpet python project.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, man.
Okay.
Thanks
awesome.
for having me.
All right, Will. Thank you so much, man. All right. Good night.
Talk to you later.
All right, take care.